Hi, I'm Aaron Hand, Editor-in-Chief of Pro Food World, and this is Take 5. After close to 2 years of attending mostly virtual conferences, we are back out on the road. This week, I'm in Frisco, Texas for ISBT's annual BevTech meeting, so I hope you'll forgive the less than stellar filming conditions. But I actually want to talk to you today about the Cheese Expo, which I attended a few weeks ago in Milwaukee. Lots of interesting discussion going on the show floor, along with some pretty tasty cheeses. And really, where else can you go and get bottles of milk as your break time beverage? I also really enjoyed watching the students competing in the Collegiate Dairy Products Evaluation Contest, smelling and cutting and tasting various cheeses and milks and yogurts and whatnot. But what I most want to talk about today are the keynote discussions that took place at the Cheese Expo around America's role in the global dairy industry. So Krysta Harden, who's the president and CEO of the U.S. Dairy Export Council, led a panel discussion in the morning that got into the competitive position of the U.S. as a dairy exporter, but also some other topics such as sustainability and supply chain. And really, supply chain continues to be one of the most egregious pain points for manufacturers and consumers alike. So talking about the dairy industry's competitive position, David Allum, president and CEO of Hilmar Cheese, commented, "We've been selling a lot of stuff, but we can't get it to consumers right now." And that was really the prevailing sentiment. Suppliers, whether the cheese and milk producers themselves or the equipment makers serving those brand owners, are desperately trying to figure out how to get their products into the hands of the people who need them. So the cheese business is largely domestic, but about half of the dairy proteins get shipped overseas and almost all of the lactose. The demand is there, but the ports are log-jammed, according to David Lensmeyer, CEO for Milk Specialties Global. And Marshall Reese of the Associated Milk Producers said that just getting an empty container to the Midwest has been very difficult. As Harden put it, "I'm a good sleeper, but the thing that wakes me up is this shipping situation." A little later in the day, Harden provided her own perspective on a number of topics, including food insecurity, plant-based dairy alternatives, and the industry's response to COVID-19. I'm going to let you listen in on what she had to say about lessons learned during the pandemic.
I made us aware of our vulnerabilities and really shine the spotlight on the areas where we have weaknesses within our supply chain and lack of the truckers' retirement age. Folks aren't coming into trucking, they're 65 to 68, they have to get back on the road. We kind of knew that, but we didn't do anything about it, our infrastructure and our ports. So I don't know if we're better yet. I think we better learn from these lessons because we would test it again, and we better make investments in infrastructure and look at ways to mobilize our supply chain differently. So I think, it's up to us really as agriculture, not just dairy, but as an industry to take advantage of what we've learned through COVID.
So there's way more than I can fit into this segment, so I encourage you to check the links below for some written content. Up next, Melissa Griffin will provide some insights into labeling for bioengineered foods.
Hi, I'm Melissa Griffin, contributing editor at Pro Food World magazine. The final rule for the National Bioengineered Food Disclosure Standard, NBFDS, issued by the USDA in December of 2018, began requiring mandatory compliance in January of this year. NBFDS is intended to inform consumers, and regulated entities must maintain records and determine which of their foods, if any, have been genetically modified. AIB International offers a course outlining how to use bioengineered food labels, including a recorded webinar which provides an overview of the finalized requirements for food and ingredients. The main goal of the course is to help the industry understand the labeling rules, exemptions, and the use of voluntary bioengineered food labeling. NBFDS applies to all foods subject to the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, including chewing gum and dietary supplements, as well as to non-retail foods which the Agricultural Marketing Service, AMS, does not have the authority to extend exemptions to. AMS has created a current list of bioengineered foods falling under NBFDS requirements, which will be reviewed and modified as needed on a yearly basis. Non-exempt bioengineered foods not included in this list are also required to provide a disclosure. The webinar outlines how to determine if a food has been bioengineered according to the final rule, as well as which foods are exempt. If the primary ingredient of a food contains genetic material modified through rDNA techniques and cannot be otherwise conventionally bred or found in nature, then it requires a bioengineered food disclosure. Regulated entities can use the following regulated disclosure options: text, symbol, electronic or digital link, and/or text message. Additional options such as phone number or web address are also available to small food manufacturers or for small and very small packages. AMS specifies that disclosure information is free to consumers and their personal information cannot be collected, analyzed, or sold. For more on which foods and entities are exempt from NBFDS, as well as voluntary disclosures and record keeping, see the full story at the URL on screen. Thanks, and see you next time on Take 5 with ProFood World.